Okay, let's take a look at creating either a detailed view or a form view application rather than a grid view. So these are often used to display a single record, where the grid is used to display multiple records on the screen. So similarly, project, add new item. I want to be under C#, web of forms, and I'm going to say display a single product. I'm going to switch to design view, and again I've closed my toolbox, so I'm going to bring that up again. I often have to close my toolbox because I'm working with a pretty small screen here for recording. Okay, so under data, again, I'm going to grab my SQL data source and put that out there. I'm going to configure the data source. I'm just going to use one of my connections here. Now again, remember from last time I created a second connection here. So I can use either one. I'm going to use this MDF file. And again, just like before, I want to make sure I don't use this default alphabetical list of products. I want to get the actual product table. So I'm going to go down there and specify the product table. I'm going to keep it with all the fields right now. And I'm going to go to advanced, and I want to make sure I do this generate, update, insert, and delete statements. And then I can choose the concurrency option too. So this should all test out and run. So now my data source is configured properly. Now I'm going to go in and create either a form view or a detail view. So let's create a detailed view here. I'm going to grab the detail view here and drag it up onto the screen. So similar to how we did with the data grid here, I have to specify a data source. So I'm going to select my data source here. And again, I haven't renamed my data source, so it's still the same way. So it's in grabbing the product information and just has the blank fields here. Now if I run this, it'll show the information for a single product. And then again, just like before, we can do a lot of configurations to view this in different ways. So now it has a single product. There's no paging enabled. I can't go to the next product or the previous product. I can't edit or delete or anything like that. So let's look to enable a couple of those things. So again, I'm going to click on my detail view here, go to my quick view areas. I'm going to enable paging, enable inserting, editing, and deleting. Maybe I want to edit some of my fields here, so like product ID or product name. I can put some information, supplier ID. And again, maybe I don't want to actually be entering in these. I might want to limit what fields I'm actually displaying here. Right now I'm going to keep it to all the fields for just a sec. So let's just, keep forgetting to stop this before I run it again. So now if I run this, I should be able to edit and update records. My field names are a little different here, where I've changed its quantity and product space name. Again, I can edit one of these. I can go to the next record here and edit some of this information here. So I have to go to edit, switch this out, and hit update to update this information. I can create a new record and enter that. Notice I might want to make this a little wider so I can format things and do some more formatting. Let's do some more controls. Now some things like that I have here I can also change. Okay, that's like just a couple more changes to talk about some more formatting stuff with these views. So first, let's make this column, this detail view a little wider. I'm going to make sure I click on this until I get the resize buttons available and make those a little bigger here. We're going to talk a little bit about changing these now, the look of these fields too. Let me run this. So when I run this One of the things we'll see are some of these ID fields. We often don't want to see those ID fields. For the product ID, we can actually just hide that. We don't need to see that that information in here. And in fact, when we edit, create this, we don't want to be creating that. That should be automatically generated. Now, the supplier ID and category ID fields, we want to set those up. There's a couple ways of doing that. One is to expand our query so we actually see the values here and not just the numbers. So like our supplier ID number is 1 and our category ID is like 2 in this case. Now we can actually also change, like if I go to edit mode, I don't want people necessarily to have to pick a category ID. What I've added here, a supplier ID, is let them choose a different supplier here and update that field so they can change that. So let's look a little bit at that. We're not going to go into too much detail with it, but just the basics of it. So in data source, I can go to edit fields, and then here are my different fields here. And then notice how supplier ID looks a little different here. See this little icon? That means the template field. I'm changing the way it displays to something different. And so same with category ID. If I want to do that, I've already done it with supplier ID, but for category ID I can click on it and I can say convert this field to a template field. So now these are both template fields. Now if I go out of this, now again, when I'm viewing my quick information, there's this edit templates down here. If I edit templates, I have a couple different templates. I have a supplier ID template and a category ID template. And for each of these, I have different views. I have a view for when it's just being displayed. I have a view for when it's being edited and inserted here. So these are my different views that I'm editing. So, and also again, when I see this, I see supplier ID, the item template for displaying and edit things. And so I can actually change this. So for supplier ID under editing, I've actually changed this to a pull-down box. And let's look at the same thing here for category ID when I'm editing the field. Right now it's just a text box. I'm still running this. I'm going to stop this. Okay, so I can actually go into my standard controls again. I can delete this text box and drag in a drop-down list here and display this. Now, if I want this drop-down list to actually pull data from a data source, I can have that selected, and I can go down to data source. Now, I may have to create a data source for my categories if I want to just bring in the categories. And you can see I've actually created a new data source here for the suppliers. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to just quickly grab a data source, drag it up here. I'm going to call, this is going to be my categories. So I usually call data sources DS and then categories. And then I'm going to I'm going to configure that data source so it grabs the categories table, and I'm just going to want the category ID and name. I don't need to do any advanced things because I'm just going to select those things, so I can just leave it as that and finish this up. I could have tested it, I guess, but I'm just going to finish this up. So now I've got my categories here. So now back to my template field, which is still here selected. I can have it as a data source. I can grab this DS categories. Now there's two things. There's the text field that's shown, and so I can grab the category name from that, and then there's the value field which is stored and recorded, and I can grab the category ID for that. Now there's more to it, and I won't go into a lot of editing of this sort of stuff here, but the idea is that you could then select categories here. Now we've got to do some configuring so that this ID is actually then stored into the database itself properly and things like that. But you can do a fair amount of configuring, either pulling data from a data source or entering manually. And I'll pull some I'll post some more videos online showing these different options. So now I'm going to end template editing and go back here. So again, I can set up templates for each of any field I want and redefine how those work, and then I can edit those templates. And then I have to make sure I go. So if I go into editing templates, I can edit the templates, and then when I hit end editing templates, I'm back to the whole view. So there's this whole area of templates. Again, we won't be going into it too much. I'll post some additional videos if you want to learn more about it to the Blackboard areas.